So, delighted to have you here this afternoon and delighted to welcome Sabrina and Mona to join us. I was having a look at the agenda, and so we're going to solve all things digital, and we're going to solve all things around success, and we're going to solve everything to do with transformation. Okay, so we're going to cure 3 of the world's biggest challenges, which is great, because I get to sit here and ask questions, and you get to, share your point of view. What I would ask is, look, the more interactive we can make this, I think the better for everyone. So if you've got something you'd like to say, if you've got a point of view, if you've got a question, let's just make this an open discussion. Can we do that? Does that work for us? All right. So
at least we got 3 chairs.
I know.
So progress.
3 high stools as well.
Yeah.
So maybe, Mona, I could come to you first and just invite you to introduce yourself.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon. I hope you've had a good lunch and are awake, maybe some coffee. My name is Mona. I head up Enterprise Growth Marketing at Scotiabank, which really just is helping us deliver on our sales through using different marketing channels and tools. So media, transformation journeys, SEO, and really using customer insights and data to help navigate the various challenges a customer might face, and how do we make sure that we bring our products front and center. And prior to Scotiabank, I used to work in a transformation role at a CPG company. So definitely not an FI background. I think Cash mentioned earlier, look beyond your boundaries. I think that's one of my most favorite things. It's how do we use different industries to build our understanding of customers, because we need products differently based on our different needs, and how does that evolve as we move industries really helps us understand our customers better.
Great. Thanks, Mona. And Sabrina?
Yes, Sabrina Ng. I'm from TD, and I lead the business banking, analytics, insights, and AI team. We do everything and all things analytics and data. And recently, with all the hype of AI, everyone wants AI. And everyone is looking at us, spoke leads like we're Oprah. It's like, you want AI, you got AI. The background is mainly rooted on analytics that are very much customer-oriented. So I do a lot of marketing analytics, a lot of customer insight analytics, and I've spent a lot of time in the context of strategizing how best to serve the customer experience.
Great. Okay, so we're set up for a good conversation. I'd like to start with business results, because ultimately that's what we're all here to do. We're all here to make a material impact in our organizations. And I'd like to do that in the context of I'm a consumer. And what I observe is that every day, every week, every month, my expectations just go one way and one way only, and that's up. So if we take that contrast of expectations going up and up and up, and we think about business outcomes or business success, I'm just really interested, and maybe Mona, come to you first, how you see and you define success in the context of Scotiabank.
I mean, there's how we define success as a bank, which is, did we hit our goals and targets, and how much money did we make? But if I really go back to what you're asking, it's how do we serve our customers well? And how do we make sure that the value that they're getting is value that's helping them feel like we are partners in the relationship? And we want to enrich that experience that they have. And so when there are different life needs that they have, and as they grow in their own sort of variety of things that they have in their life, how do we make sure that we as banking partners are part of that journey? And that really creates the best business results, because we're not just getting our targets by selling a credit card. We're really enriching that journey through making sure we have product that's available to our customers that is meaningful to whatever their life needs are, whether their kids are going to university or they're getting married. There is a product that's useful, and they're connecting to that product.
Great. So I like that. Yeah? Defining success in your customers' terms. Yeah, what's meaningful for them. Sabrina, what would you like to add?
I guess I'll add to the perspective of how most banks are as I have mentioned previously, P&L driven. And because of that focus, we tend to go the other way. We tend to retrofit our initiative, our outcomes, to realign it back to a customer result. So the intent of those initiatives, while not necessarily primarily trying to drive customer experience or impact customer experience, because if you really do try to impact directly on the customer experience, a lot of times that actually it's a very different direction than having to achieve your P&L goals. So in that case, while we are trying to justify our deliveries, our outcomes to be customer-centric, the numbers, the financials, profitability values that we would use on a customer level, NPS scores and all that, become a secondary set of metrics that we just overlay on top of all the outcomes that we deemed as successful customer experience initiatives. So yeah, I just want to correlate back as not necessarily as a chicken and egg situation, but rather we tend to go back to realign success to the initiative with a customer experience focus.
And just, I mean, let's stay with that for a minute, because I wonder what would happen if we just flipped that. And we actually genuinely did the right thing for customers, colleagues, and the business. Because I actually think the space that we're operating in allows us to achieve all three. And so instead of this being an either-or world, or a chicken and egg, or a retrofit world, we could actually say, no, we're going to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We're going to hold ourselves as leaders to that standard, where we're going to meet the needs of our customers, the needs of our colleagues, and the needs of our shareholders, our members, our business environment around it. And as we go increasingly digital, do you think some of those metrics or measures that we may have historically used are starting to change? And if so, how? Sabrina?
There's definitely a change in terms of the type of metrics that we use to measure. Specifically, from a digital usage perspective, adoptions and volume of use, or those traffic-based information are less about illustrating how excited or how positive the customer actually feel about utilizing your tool, your platform, your products. But rather, it's, again, another just byproduct. That is what you offer. That's where you guided them to. Of course, it will drive certain level of adoption and traffic. But if we're really, truly interested to measure the effectiveness of those particular products from a customer experience perspective, your basics, such as your surveys, your interviews, your focus groups, those ones are still table stakes that needs to constantly be reinforced. But also, I think there is now a new element of measuring that experience through just purely from an interaction with the customer's perspective from a colleague aspect. So we focus a lot on what the customers say, but we don't focus a lot on how our frontline staff, how our call center staff actually felt about that interaction. They actually have the best hand of, was that a good experience? And yet, there's not a whole lot of places where we can capture the colleagues' feedback of that interaction. We capture a lot of what the customer has to say, but we don't capture the one that actually are making the interaction with the customer. So in that sense, I think there's some opportunities. And on the digital front, similarly, I think there is a lot of analytics, AI, machine learning that can generate all sort of insight for us. You don't even need an analyst to drive those insights for you anymore. So those, again, become table stake of information you can just gather.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mona?
I think Sabrina touched on a really important part about employees and the frontline staff. I remember in my early days at the bank, one of the things I did was go to a couple of the branches near my home and talk to some of the branch leads and just try to understand what are the tools that they're using, how's the technology that they're working with, helping them be successful in the relationships and interactions that they're making. And I remember vividly one of the employees telling me that while there are so many tools available in the bank, there isn't one tool that helps them do the job in helping to have those conversations and build those relationships. And oftentimes when we build products, we forget to take the advice of our employees in how those products are going to be used to build those relationships with our clients and customers. And I think that evolution is probably something that's more front and center now than ever before, because there's this interesting overlap between where AI plays a role of understanding customer needs and how does that translate into frontline staff and how they also leverage AI and technology to sort of evaluate those needs and provide insights and considerations. That hasn't really been something that's been a focal point before, but as we use Copilot or Gemini tools to leverage insights and understand our customers better, our customers are going to expect that the people that they're interacting with are also using those tools to help guide them.
So this blend of satisfying customers but also colleagues or employees, yeah, is really, really important around it. And you know, maybe we need to start to move beyond the annual employee surveys, yeah? You know, because that's where the heart of the customer interaction is actually happening, yeah? And we can, you know, go and I'm sure when you went and saw, yeah, what was happening in the branches, it's a different experience to the one that you were told about.
100%.
Yeah? There was the National Health Service in the UK. They've got 1 million employees, so this is a large organization by any scale. Yeah? And they interviewed their employees and they said, so which digital applications are you using to serve your customers? The list was 26 different digital applications, yeah? 10 of which were approved by the NHS, by the company. The other 16 were ones that people were just, this is how I want to do my job, okay? And I think that's a fascinating bit in this digital world. As you say, you know, people are coming and using a lot of these tools in my personal life, and therefore, I don't make a distinction between what I can use and where I want to use it, yeah, in terms of how I deliver around it.
I remember my daughter coming to me a week ago, and she's using Gemini. Gemini is the tool my child uses, and she says, Mom, look how much I need for the rest of the school year for my lunch money if I'm taking $20 from you every other day. I'm like, wonderful. How are you helping to earn that? And I remember I'm like, are you doing that math yourself, or are you asking fun little Google to do it for you? She's like, Google, Mom. And I think we forget that not just sort of today, but as our children grow, they're growing in an ecosystem that's ever so much more inclusive of technology and data, and how we help to make sure that that is something that is moving with us so that we can educate and teach them. It's going to be so important.
So let me just stay with that for a minute, because if we talk about consumer needs consistently getting more and more, and you know, this influx of technology, yeah, this influx of digital, yeah, into our lives, then what I'm interested in is how have you started, I mean, you've both led and deliver highly successful digital programs. Yeah? How have you co-created? Yeah? Because, you know, I hear a lot about that, but I'm sure the folks here today are interested in, so what does it take to really co-create and understand the needs? And Sabrina, maybe you'd like to pick that one up.
In my particular area, I would say the co-creation actually is quite minimal, particularly in this new role that I'm in with business banking customers. Business banking customers are a complete different set of needs, and very likely the needs are very much credit-based. So they expect us to know they don't expect us to come and ask them the questions, do you need something? Rather, it should be us proactively going to them and letting them know, hey, we see that you've been having some irregular transactions lately. You've been a really great customer with us. We would like to offer you some room for you to take a credit relief so that you don't need to feel the crunch. And that's the expectation. The co-creation is unspoken of, but their needs are indicated by their transactions, by their day-to-day activities. So in the business banking context, co-creation is a little bit less in that sense. But going back to some of the personal banking side of things, it is all about understanding those personas, those different needs, and it's not about just creating personas for what I would deem as putting folks into different boxes. The previous conversation, previous session was talking about the transition of people going from one persona to another. I see that more and more often and frequent now. Folks may be exhibiting certain type of behavior from a transactional perspective, but their activities or the thinking or what their true needs are might not be what you see in the data. So you need to go one step further in the analysis and not just take the data verbatim in terms of the insight, which is something that while AI can generate for you right now very quickly, it's about the analysts really looking into those insights and say, that just looked like the surface of the activity. I'm gonna go deeper to understand the root cause of those activity. And that's why we need it to be co-created between the analysts, the customers, and the data. So it has to all come together.
Yeah, an interesting definition of co-creation there. Yeah? So, using the data, using the different skills across the teams that you have, and actually that sort of, let me say, commercial curiosity, that desire to just ask a little bit, to think a little bit further, to dig a little bit deeper, to find out what's going on. Mona, how do you do co-creation?
I think being in marketing is a bit different because it's really around how are you making sure that you're supporting your partners to deliver on the sales results that you have and the experiences that you're needing to deliver. And so it's really about bringing different pieces of data together and helping to stitch the story so that our partners and peers can really help resonate and understand what they might be missing in terms of the narrative. And so working with partners in data and analytics, working with journey management as a function, but working with external partners as well, where there's such a plethora of data, whether it's Google Insights or Enronix customer segmentation, it's really just sort of bridging those pieces together. I think it's really understanding how do those pieces come together to help create a story that our business partners can then find value and can translate that into successful campaigns that can deliver on those results.
And the image that comes to my mind is, as an experienced leader, maybe we need to become jigsaw builders. Yeah, we're the people that put the different bits together. Yeah, to actually curate that finished experience.
And I think Insights has shifted so much. So I think there's a need to bridge a lot of sort of our insights that we get from our customer data, but insights that we see as clients. So we see like our NPS data, we see our brand sentiment data, we see all of these pieces, but they're pieces still in isolation. You have to overlay that with what our customers are feeling and seeing. And I think we're in an advantaged place where digital allows us to see those experiences and insights firsthand. It's very easy to open up a Google search dashboard and see what has been trending and say, how does that overlay to the demand cycle I'm seeing in market today for my products?
So before we start to wrap up, I just wondered if there were any reflections or questions or thoughts that people had. Please. I think there's a mic coming.
I'm Amanda. Hello? Okay. I'm Amanda from CIBC. A question again. So I was thinking about your question about measurement. And I think that there's this real tension between short-term measurement versus long-term, right? So from a sales perspective, it's very easy to count the number of new customers that you have. But then we might not be as good at measuring the longer term, how engaged they are. Maybe for the first year we check how engaged they are, but over the life cycle and whether they're attriting or silently attriting, because it's hard to leave a bank. So they're not leaving by like closing all their accounts and walking out the door. So how do you find the right measurement between those two pieces to solve that sort of tension?
I can maybe start. I think, first of all, I think, hit the nail there, because realistically, there is no one-size-fits-all answer. I think it's really accumulation of understanding how your customers are feeling about the products that are happening and what are the changes that are happening in their life that potentially could impact the way they're behaving with our products. I think the other piece is there's multiple types of attribution models that can really help understand what those factors are that you feed in. In the end of the day, there is your like multi-touch attribution. You've got attribution with like marketing mix models. Then you've got regression models. You can put a lot of those pieces together to help really craft a narrative of how are your customers feeling. I think one of the biggest successes is looking at customer data and transaction data to see how they're feeling. I don't think we do that often enough, and I think it's something we as a bank are starting to get much better at, which has really helped the way we elevate our understanding of our customers and what those needs are and what are the areas that we need to focus on. But I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all answer.
Thanks, Mona. Sabrina.
To build on that, I think it's really important to include metrics that have a deepening of customer relationship aspect to it. So it's beyond just the acquisition, it's beyond just the dollar that is being initiated, but rather, has there been success to deepen the relationship? Has there been success to further entrench the customer in service, in activities, in engagement of any form? So I think from a measurement perspective, yes, it's important to illustrate the initial short-term goal, whether it's achieved or not. But it's an ongoing process to capture and retain that relationship and deepen that relationship on the long term. So most business cases, I would say, on any new acquisition of customer level, I would say a solid business case should be based on at least a 3 to 5 year window of tracking and evaluating. And then you can really claim success of that initial acquisition. The quality of the customer matter more on the long term than the volume that you acquired them at. Yeah.
So Amanda, to your question, one of the things that I see working very well across a number of different sectors is when people think about success measures, so beyond metrics. Okay, so think about success measures as the metric I use, but also what am I listening for? Because the fact that somebody gives you a score, or the fact that your cycle time was X, the fact that they're then also saying, well, it felt hard to do that, or it was tougher than I expected, yeah, that's really rich activity. So two things, yeah? Think about success measures. I would map them to a journey, so I would break it down into journeys. And then I would think about your success measures from a customer, a colleague, a financial, and an operational perspective. Because too many organizations get fixated, or too many leaders get fixated on, my NPS is 63. I don't know whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, okay? And I don't know what you expect me to do with that number around it. Yeah? So getting specific and getting across the customer, colleague, financial, and operational is a good way of thinking about it as well. Any other questions? So maybe just in closing, I'll invite you both to share one or two things that you see around that sort of digital transformation, yeah, that you would just invite people to reflect on and take forward.
I think one of the things that I've personally noted a lot of is when you think about digital journeys and digital onboarding journeys, and it probably actually feeds into Amanda, your question a little bit. It's experiences and the way we deliver them to our customers really matter. And being able to measure the impact of those experiences is really critical to making sure that we're retaining customers in the long term. I think if we're having an onboarding journey, but we don't know when our customer is dropping off of that journey and why, that makes it really difficult for us to retain customers and provide experiences that are meaningful to them. And I think how we build successful journeys by having key measures of understanding why a person is behaving in a certain way, when there's potential fraud that's happening that needs to be accounted for. Those experiences will help us deepen the way we get our customers down that funnel and to actually convert, not just into an acquisition, but someone, to Sabrina's earlier point, that's someone that's an engaged customer that we're retaining, and it's not attriting in a year. They're putting money in their account, their funding behaviors are showing that they're actually building and developing those experiences with us. And I think that experience is something that's maybe not as entrenched in the Canadian market today as it is in some of our foreign markets. It is a lot more prominent in the United States or in Europe, where they have spent a lot more time digitizing the experiences, where digital banking is front and center. I think that's probably one of the biggest things I would say that's going to be a big focus in the next couple of years, is how are we making digital banking more accessible.
Thanks, Mona. Sabrina?
I would give three recommendations. One is this day of age, things change so fast. By the time you come up with the right strategy, it's no longer right anymore by the time you execute it. So speed is everything. Try to approach any initiative you have in a smaller scale, but in smaller batches with more variety, because variety is what is needed in this day of age. There's no longer one size fits all. It's not one offer. Not everyone wants your toaster. Not everyone wants your iPad. So at the end, it's about trying to find what is right for the customer at the right time. So speed to market is definitely my first top of mind consideration. Second consideration is your controls around how you execute. While trying, so I'm going on the complete opposite direction as my first recommendation. While you're trying to do speed, you need to make sure that your back end is covered, and to make sure that any engagement touch point fully approved, really ethical, really the right way to doing things, really the right controls in place to make sure no audit is going to come back to bite you. So that's number two. And then the number three is try to think about it from your colleagues' perspective and your customer's perspective, less about the financial outcome. I know it's always hard because that's the business case that we're working against. But if there's a way that we can justify any of our initiatives from a bettering of colleague experience, bettering of engagement with our customer, there's good justification for those initiatives to go through, even though sometimes it might not make the most money. So those are my three recommendations that I would like to share with you all.
Great, and that's a really nice way to end. Yeah. So, I mean, if each of us was to walk out of here and do the right thing for our customers and the right thing for our colleagues, I'm convinced the financials and the operational metrics will follow after that. So, Sabrina, Mona, thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.